It's natural to assume that the largest parkour organisation in Scotland is its longest running. Well, you're wrong. 17 years ago, when most people were only interested in training, one man and a group of his friends unintentionally created Scotland's first ever parkour club. But this has not been easy due to struggles with the local council, little to no support from Parkour UK, and difficulties getting outsiders into their community. Although they did appear in a Japanese newspaper article in 2012, which is not an everyday occurrence. To share the story of how they survived when so many others have failed, this is Perthshire Freerunners, a hidden community. We start in the summer of 2007, where a young Chris Mackey was attending a sports degree at Abertay University. Already qualified in gymnastics and athletics, Chris was an incredibly active individual and had recently got into the District 13 series, a set of legendary parkour films. In no time at all, Chris had bought a book on parkour moves and had started learning out and about with his friends. Fast forward to October 2007, they all decided to hire a hall in their hometown of Stanley so they could train parkour throughout the winter. And what happened next was completely unexpected. A few weeks into their hire, Chris turned up to the hall to find a group of 20-odd boys and men stating that they were here for the parkour class. Turns out there was a girls' dance group in the hall before Chris's hire, and the hall manager had told all of the brothers and young dads there to pick up their sisters and daughters that there was a parkour class on afterwards. And it was this misunderstanding which officially started Perthshire Freerunners. Between 2007 and 2014, Chris and his fellow coaches were busy at Perthshire Freerunners. Not only did they run 2 parkour classes a week, one in Stanley Hall and one at Glasgow campus, but they also attended a couple of Roots of Movements events and trained in multiple locations around the UK. They were well established as the name for parkour in Perth, and that's all they wanted to be. Not to be a brand or to expand throughout Scotland, just to share their love of parkour with those in Perth. And they did this completely voluntarily. No money was ever given to the coaches, it went straight to hall hire and equipment hire, making them for some time the only voluntary parkour club in the whole of the UK. When Parkour UK was founded in 2009 and set up the Level 1 parkour coaching qualification, the PFR team leapt to get qualified and aimed to get their Level 2 as soon as possible. But that's where their problems started. Despite being the governing body for parkour and freerunning in the UK, Parkour UK is notorious for not caring or supporting anything that's in Scotland. The furthest they usually go is Edinburgh because that's where their Scotland representative is. And despite being a 40-minute to an hour's drive from the Central Belt, Perth was and still is treated like the northerly towns. There are a number of Parkour UK representatives that were supposed to visit Perth on a number of occasions, even having their accommodation provided for them, but they just didn't turn up. Now onto the qualifications. The Level 1 coaching assistant course for PFR was a breeze. No issues whatsoever. But the Level 2 was different. During the course, Chris's shoulder popped out. It was a complete accident during one of the drills. He popped it back in and was told he needed to complete the whole course, otherwise it would be classed as a fail. Now, the Level 2 in the early days was pretty much a boys-only fitness club, with the main focus being on strength and conditioning, with tasks such as do so many press-ups in a minute, do so many pull-ups in 10 minutes, do so many bear crawls for a certain distance. The coaching part was a very minute part of the coaching course. So despite Chris completing the coaching part of it, he was told if he didn't do this last one insane strength test, he would fail the whole thing. So he did his bear crawls, but with one arm, which is pretty impressive to be honest. Shortly after this, in the time period in which Chris needed to get his hours signed off, he had vital surgery done on his spine, and Parkour UK agreed to extend his time period by a total of 6 months. 6 months to get out of a wheelchair, complete rehab, and to get all of his coaching hours signed off, in which he needed to effectively demonstrate and instruct. Funny enough, this didn't happen, and the Level 2 fell from Chris's grip. A year or so before the COVID-19 pandemic, the Perth Council and Live Active blocked all of the bookings for the Glasgow campus for any club that didn't have a Level 2 qualification for their respective sports. Despite Chris trying to explain to both organisations that it wasn't necessary for parkour, they put their foot down and wouldn't budge. So began Chris's journey of getting a level 2 for a second time, which took place in London. This time he completed it all uninjured, but failed due to his outdated coaching techniques. And instead of explaining how to improve and helping Chris with his development as a coach, as a governing body is supposed to do, they simply sent him a short video on a new way of how to land a precision jump, which to Chris, who was highly experienced and qualified in a variety of sports and had been told by other members of the Scottish community that he was an excellent coach with an eye for detail and accuracy, was not safe for younger pupils. Almost £2,000 later, from course fees, travel and accommodation, with absolutely nothing to show for it, Chris was done with Parkour UK until they made the necessary changes. Perthshire Freerunners were forced to take the loss of the campus, dropping their numbers from 43 weekly students to 12 post-COVID. But it hasn't been all doom and gloom for the Perth community. They have hosted 2 charity events which were largely successful, raising over £600 for Perth autism support and over £400 for Macmillan cancer support. In addition to this, in 2012 they appeared in a Japanese newspaper article. I know this is not something you'd expect to happen to a parkour community in Scotland. One of the most famous spots in Perth is the Hermitage, a natural area with railings, low buildings, trees, a grassy area and a big waterfall. At the base of the waterfall is a tourist viewpoint, and on one particular day, Chris and a few others had chosen to complete a jump from a boulder at the top of the waterfall to another boulder on the other side of the waterfall slightly lower down. After a couple of preps, Chris sent the jump, completing it successfully. But little did he know that a Japanese tourist who was actually a journalist for a Japanese newspaper and was writing an article about his trip to Perth had snapped a photo of Chris mid-jump over the waterfall. The article was published sometime after, with Chris's photo at the head of the article. So despite their struggles, Perthshire Freerunners has been incredibly successful. They may not be a brand or have gyms throughout Scotland, but they have a small, loyal community and club which has been active since 2007. Due to health reasons, the future of Perthshire Freerunners is slightly uncertain. However, a couple of the older students that Chris has been coaching for 9-10 years have expressed interest in becoming coaches and getting qualified. With their 17th birthday approaching in October this year, a plan for a Roots of Movement type event in the works, and one of the hosts for the Scottish Takeover League in 2025, who knows? Maybe they'll build back up again, growing the community and being well established as the name for parkour in Perthshire. Then, maybe they won't be so hidden after all. Thank you so much for watching this video on the history of the Perthshire Freerunners. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to like, leave a comment and share it around with people that you think may be interested. Subscribe and turn on that notification bell so you know when I post similar content to this. And as always, I'll see you around.